Yeah, hi Jack. Today my guest is an expert and industry veteran in the health tech innovation. And my podcast today we try to basically cover anything engineering related, but with the background of health tech and medicine. That's why I have Jack on board with us. Hi Jack.
Hi, thanks for having me. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here, and I'm really looking forward to our conversation.
Like just to kick it off, what do you think about Apple Vision Pro? Because it's been released yesterday, and I've been instantly thinking, okay, Apple was always on the forefront of doing some innovation steps that industry have to follow. Does this will impact medicine the way we perceive it today?
It's difficult to say at this moment because it's so new. Still, there's not enough to say. I think it will definitely have an impact, but if we think back a few years, we had the Google glasses, and other people tried these kinds of things. So let's see how this goes in the next days and weeks. The critical factor is going to be, can they get developers on board? Can they get applications using this well? Can they integrate it properly with the other ecosystem? Yeah. If that works, it's super, and Apple has a lot of success. You're right, Apple has a lot of success bringing these groundbreaking products to market. But I'm just not 100% sure about this. But,
Jack, you've seen a lot more than anyone in the industry. So just like to bring interesting facts, you've been a vice president at some point at CGM, and CGM considered, well, not many people know that name and brand, but it's like a monster. Every time you try to integrate with any clinical software, there is a CGM behind. And now you're leading one of the most innovative, as actually voted to be most innovative startup in the 10 top German startups in the health tech ecosystem, which called Doctorly.
Yeah.
It's basically a massive cliff, gap between these monsters the veterans of industry and the newcomers. How does it come about?
Well, a little bit of backstory. So I kind of accidentally got into health tech. It wasn't really I started many years ago as a developer. So I was doing IT projects. I worked for IBM and all kinds of companies. Then I started doing government projects, and then at one of the companies I worked with here in Germany, we started building healthcare software for the German government to do quality assurance and to do different things. And over time, I became more and more passionate about this topic. So when I left that organization, I had a look around and said, all right, where am I going to go? CompuGroup, CGM, one of the biggest healthcare software companies globally. Even. They have something like 5,000 development staff. So not just developers, but QA, Scrum Masters, the whole development. So I'm like, all right, this is a cool job. It gives me a job where I can actually make an impact and have make a huge difference to healthcare and actually do something, as opposed to these smaller projects, smaller company. But as you also rightly pointed out, CompuGroup is a bit of a monster. It's grown over time by largely swallowing other businesses. So there's a lot of this merger acquisition. And underneath, inside CompuGroup, there's still these individual companies to a certain extent. There's still this department or that department. So I ended up being responsible for practice management software globally as the VP of engineering. We had 42 different products that did largely the same thing. Right? There's 7 CompuGroup products in Germany that do practice management software. 7. And there's another 35 in the rest of the world. Some of this is because of regulations. You can't use the same software, for example, in America that you can in Germany. The regulations are not compatible. That's okay. But within Germany, it would make sense to have a single product. And one of the reasons I left CompuGroup is there was no desire to unify. There was no reason to simplify. And it was actually actively opposed because everybody had their little kingdom. So they had their little M1 kingdom, they had their little TurboMed kingdom, they had and everybody had their own sales stuff, their own developers, their own support stuff. And you couldn't get through this because it's been there for 20 years. So like trying to teach me, I don't know, how to speak Russian. My wife has tried. It's like worked occasionally, but it's never going to be great. You can't do this. Like, so then I looked, okay, where can I go that's actually going to do healthcare innovation? And so I looked at the startup scene, logically. And that's what led me to join Doctorly. And the reason that I joined Doctorly is also they have a bigger vision. We're not just building practice management software, but the vision is to build practice management software to help the doctors, to then have the patient app to connect with the patients, to then have the platform and the marketplace so that everybody can integrate with us. I'm sure in the IT world, everybody knows like Jira, Confluence, or the other Atlassian products or SAP. There's a huge marketplace behind these where people can publish their own plugins and use them as part of Jira or as part of SAP. This is what we want to build. We want to build the base system that does the really great work and then open it to everybody else. I don't want to build another telehealth solution. There's 6, 7, 8, 9 good ones on the market. Why should I bother to try and build something that somebody else has already built? I don't want to build another like display radiography images. There are great solutions for that. I can't do it that well, right? Or not without a lot of time and effort. So we want to build this base layer, this platform, and then get other people in to start building integrations and be able to sell their products, use them in Doctorly. So they're a specialist in one thing. They make this one special thing. They can use that, build it as a plugin. It works together with Doctorly. For the doctor, it looks like one thing, right? It just works. And this is where we need to go in healthcare. And that's going to open up the future of healthcare, this vision of integration and exchange of data and exchange of ideas.
Well, Jack, the reason why I wanted to talk to you so severely is actually I'm now with this wonderful company called Casper Health, and I had the same ambition to kind of like move the needle, see an impact of my work on a day one, but
yeah.
It's like a wave that rocks, like flashes against the rocks. The first integration you have with a hospital, you have this meeting and you're asking, so how do we integrate with your server? And they're scratching their head and saying, well, you don't, because we don't manage. We actually don't even have the management that we owe. It's basically someone else. It's called like we handle data with it's called keys. So Krankenkassen Informationssystem, but the data is handled by some other providers. Normally, it's like there is some company that specializes in data exchanges. So you spend months until you're even able to get the first bit out of the hospital, and then if you want to get the bit back to the hospital, it's probably going to be a few months more. And you have a mission to intertwine all this system. Almost in the real time, so I've realized it's like, a really big nut to crack. So how do you go about that? And I will touch upon about some details, because like there is like, for all engineers that come from JSON world, like for us, like basically integration with any, let's say, third-party services, it's an API call. With hospital, they kind of like, 10 or 20 years behind. So the protocols are still hardly working with, SFTP standards, etc. And, there is basically expectations where you have like, these pink glasses and reality where you go in a dark forest and then, you have to speak a different language.
Yeah. And I think that's a huge, huge problem. And what we're trying to do is we're aiming to make it just as easy. So OAuth, like standards, like being able to authenticate against these applications, have somebody say, yes, I want to allow this integration, the same as you do in your like SAP account or your Jira account or wherever. I want to allow this integration. I download the plugin and it works. There are like international standards for healthcare, FHIR, HL7, these kind of data formats. Are they great? No, but they exist and they work. So using these standards, I think it's very much possible to do this. And to be honest, for a lot of the integrations, what do we need? We need to know this data belongs to this patient file. We don't need to know masses of data beyond that. We need to this system has the radiology images. This system has the doctor's patient file, and it knows that when the doctor opens this patient file, then it should be able to load these images. It's not rocket science. The problem really in healthcare comes that we have these isolated data silos. Doctors in Germany, 95% of doctors in Germany in their medical practices have the data on a computer under their desk or on their desk or in the cupboard, right? You can't integrate with those because they're nowhere where they can actually be reached. They don't have APIs. They don't have any of these things. And obviously, if you have to individually integrate with every practice in Germany, there's like 120,000 practices. How are you supposed to manage this? Right? You can't do it. So we're putting this practice management software in the cloud, or we have put it in the cloud. And this enables us to do this integration layer. And then the doctor just has to say, all right, I want to use that service. I will authorize that service and allow it. And then it works the same as it works with like any other cloud service, right? The data that is exchanged, of course, you have to have agreements. You have to have like, the APIs have to exist. But if you base these on like standard FHIR APIs for what does a patient look like? What does an appointment look like? What does a diagnosis look like? The data is not particularly complicated. And the same thing that you said about hospitals. Each hospital in Germany has their own little data bucket, and it's separated. And there was actually an article, I read it like a week or two ago. There's 12 hospitals who've now integrated their data centers and are working together. And this is like, everybody in Germany is like, oh my God, there's 12 hospitals working together. It's like, that's 12. Do you know how many hospitals there are in Germany? There's over 4,000 major hospitals, public hospitals, right? So it's the tip of the iceberg. But we're starting from the doctor's side, especially because in Germany, the patient journey usually starts at the doctor. You feel bad, you go to the doctor. They might send you to another doctor, or they might send you to the hospital. Eventually, you end up back at the doctor, right? So that's why we've chosen this as the starting point. And this is the way, because we also see like the software that other companies make. It looks like Windows 95 Minesweeper. It's gray, it's got those horrible bevels. You click the wrong button, the whole thing blows up. I've heard stories of people like the one of the employees at the doctor's office accidentally pushed the update now button. 3 hours later, the practice could start working again. How can this be? It's 2023, people. Like, we don't need this. The doctors have to back up their own data. It's ludicrous.
So let me just put it clear for all the listeners. Doctorly brings unfair competitive advantage to keeping your practice software in a cloud. So it's basically browser-based modern application where doctors don't need to worry about patches, updates, reinstalls, keeping the hardware in their office, etc.
Yeah.
So you basically
only thing they need is a computer. They just need a computer with a browser. If their practice burns down, they can go to MediaMarkt or Saturn or wherever, buy a computer, call us, we'll send them the new certificate, they install it, and they can start working. Right? They don't have to be responsible for backups. At the moment, doctors back up their software maybe once a week. They take it on an external hard drive and they take it home. Do you know how many of those doctors have ever tried to restore that data? Only the unlucky ones. Yeah. And this is scary. And our doctors also, they come to us and they're like, is the cloud safe? I'm like, is that thing under your desk safe? Like, what if the cleaning lady walks off with it?
Yeah, the whole topic of regulation and data safety is totally another topic. But I just want to move back in the history, and also for our listeners, the medical data format standards, they started back almost at the same history point of first relational databases. So the first standard HL7 was introduced. There was a paper in 1963. 1963, 64, 65 was actually first commercial database available. So we're looking back at the time where the computation was still in baby steps, and all these standards were evolving. And mostly, funny enough, like basically HL7 message format requires you to save data in the ASCII standard or format. And funny enough, it's basically American standard code for information interchange. So it's basically like, literally like the start of the evolution. We still, in Germany and mainly like in many European countries, using HL7 as a standard. However, with this updated format of which is called FHIR, or we pronounce it FHIR, and it's the first step towards being data agnostic. So you could send data in a JSON or XML file and not being, in some kind of outdated formats that no one else is able to transport over API call.
Yeah.
And coming back to that story that I've just mentioned in the history, back in the days, you were also involved in a project with e-government, e-health, and you've managed to run the process of integrating 1,000 kitas, so basically preschool, what is it called, school, 1,000 schools and preschools, kitas. What have you learned back then? Because the problem starts where you ask, how do you keep data? What are you operating with? Do you even have any ability to exchange data? What is your server to server protocols? Those questions will never be answered because decision makers, they're not in that, they don't come from engineering. So
I'll tell you a slightly different story and then I'll answer your question. So if you remember, there was the refugee crisis in Germany where Angela Merkel said very warm-heartedly, hey, come to Germany, we'll look after you. And then a lot of people came, which was great for them. But Germany had a lot of trouble processing these people, right? Because they arrived so suddenly, nobody was expecting so many people, the systems were not set up. And we built, at my old company, it used to be called Schütze, it's now called Nordhaar. We built a system to register migrant children who would come without adults. So the most needy of these people, they need to be placed in a care facility. There's some rules about how you can place them. So certain ethnic groups shouldn't be placed together because it can cause conflict. If you have one person from one religion and 50 of the other religion, it's not good. Boys and girls shouldn't be in the same dormitory, this kind of rules. So when we started this project, the government agency that did this, the Ausländerbehörde, the people would come, the children would come to this office, they would register, they would write stuff down on paper. They would take a photo with a digital camera. They would print out the photo, staple it to the piece of paper, and then fax it to another government office. And these people said, hey, we had a problem here. A few weeks ago, we had a fire, so we lost a bunch of data because they had these paper records and it burnt down. But we've decided we know how to solve this. We're just going to print it twice and store it at other ends of the building. You've just had a fire and you're storing more paper. What is this about? So within 3 months, we were able to build this system, largely based off the stuff we've done for the kindergartens and things in schools in Berlin, which allowed them, with a tablet, to take a photo, fill out the stuff on a tablet, not have to sit with a big computer. Imagine how scary it is for this poor child who's arrived from Syria, has no family, no parents, nothing. And they're now sitting in front of some German in a German Amt. We all know how friendly these officers are. And then they're the guys behind the computer and effectively yelling at them through an interpreter. So with a tablet, with language recognition, with different speech formats, this was all very doable. And it was doable because the people needed it. Everything else in Germany, if there's no pressure, it's very hard to move this digitalization needle. The electronic healthcare cards that we have in Germany, they started this idea of having a single electronic healthcare card 20 years ago, right? And it was a great idea and had all of these ideas. Basically now, it's still just a healthcare card, and there's very little use made of it or the other functionality. We have the IPA, the electronic healthcare record that you can keep as a patient. I tried to install mine. It took me 3 hours to install it and set it up. how is Mary Miller, 82, who lives down the street, supposed to deal with this? It's just they focus so much on the security and on the privacy and on the all of these aspects, and it cannot be achieved like that.
Jörg, do you believe, and let me challenge you here, do you believe that if we bring this on, not on a German level, but on European level, some miracles could happen? Just a good example with the fintech. Some back in the days, PSD2 ruling was introduced by European Commission, and it enforced every digital institution to share user data via standardized API, and that gave birth to all the the fintech startups we have, like TaxFix, etc. So basically, because it enables you to trace your financial transactions via open banking and allow products like digital Steuererklärung, so basically tax filing, etc., being done in a modern, standardized ways. If we had something similar in health tech, European health landscape could change over a year and not over a decade.
Look, Germany is going to be a big speed hump in that process for the healthcare data. Germans are very, very sensitive, especially around healthcare data. This is one of those and there's a lot of scaremongering that goes on around it, right? Over the years, people have used this as a way to keep people afraid and to use that as a blockage. During COVID, my children's school struggled to distribute information to the children. What tasks should they do? They're all in homeschooling. So I installed for them Atlassian Confluence. I set it up for them. I said, here, you can use it. Here are some templates. It's a lesson plan. There's no private information in a lessons plan. What did I get? I got an Abmahnung from the Senatsverwaltung that I had to take it down.
No way.
So
Seriously.
I donated this. I paid for it because I have a business, so I paid for it. I was going to write it off on tax, whatever. And all it was an empty Confluence instance with templates, this is what the child should do today in this class, And so because every teacher would send individually, one sends a Word document, one sends a PDF, one sends an Excel file. All I did was it's a table in Confluence, right? There's nothing there. There's no private information. Who cares if somebody else can read the lesson plan for class 4B, right? What does it matter? And they're but it could be used as misused. If you own a hammer, this can be misused. You can take that hammer and you can kill somebody, but it's not we don't ban hammers.
Well, we know it from blockchain. Blockchain was broadly considered to be technology for black market, etc. But I'm really curious, and I'm trying to wrap my head around why we have so many brilliant startups. I personally know people from Nilo Health. There is a Recare, Doctorly, and I think one of your competitors was Nili or Nelly Health, Doctorly. Yet, on one side we are so innovative and forward thinking, and on the other side, you tell me a story like that. What needs to happen for us actually to conduct all these positive vibe and ideas and actually move forward and become leaders, what Germany used to be 10 years ago?
We need to change the language around how these things work. We need to change the way of talking about these things. People misunderstand, and this is normal for humans. People misunderstand actual risk and consequence. It's not people are afraid to fly because planes fall down. Sometimes, very, very rarely. Actually, we should be more scared of crossing the street every day because more people die that way than on airplanes, right? But nobody thinks about it like this. So people are scared of the new, of unusual, of different things. And people need to establish trust. And this is one of the things that we're doing. So we want to go to the doctors. Doctors use Doctorly, and then the doctors can say to their patients, hey, I use Doctorly, if you like scan this QR code, you can use it as well, and I can send you your blood test results safely, right? So the doctor is a trusted person for the patient, and this way they can actually say, all right, if my doctor trusts this, then I will trust it. And if your doctor says take this medication, do you check? No, like you take the medication because you know that he knows what he's doing or she. So this is a way of establishing trust and confidence in the general public. Without this, and with the scaremongering that's going on, we've had all of these like e-prescription, right? It's a great idea. For me, I have an illness. I need regular drugs. I need them all the time. I'm going to be taking them until I die. So every quarter, I have to go to my doctor. She says hello. We have a chat. She gives me my prescription. I leave. If it's always the same, I could do that with a video consultation. She could issue the prescription, send it to the pharmacy, and they can actually send it straight to me. And like nobody has to go anywhere. And this doctor, instead of spending 15 minutes with me, can deal with somebody who needs to actually talk to her, right? If you add that up, 15 minutes by 50 people, we're adding up to hours and days and months over the course of the year. But it's blocked, and the e-prescription is being blocked because it's not secure. So if I call my doctor and say, I need my prescription, they will print it out, sign it, put it inside another piece of paper, lick it, stick a colored sticker on the front, and post it to me. That is considered secure in Germany. The electronic equivalent of that is they put it in a safe to which nobody knows the combination. 2 armed guards carry that safe to me, go with me together to the pharmacy, and hold a gun to the head of the pharmacist while he gives me the drugs. That's what we're being asked to do. And it's just like, if it's safe in a bit of paper with a sticky colored sticker on it, like that's not safe. It's safe by agreement. We have the Postgeheimnisgesetz. We have a law that says you can't read other people's mail. And yes, I understand in the IT world it's easier for like attackers to go from all over the world, but what's safe enough? It's now being blocked because the pharmacy employees could use electronic prescriptions to steal drugs. If the pharmacy employee wants to steal drugs, do you know what they're already doing? Stealing drugs. They're not going to write themselves a bloody prescription. Like, I'm sorry, but like, you're like, and there's this crazy security like mindset. There's really great and clever people at the BSE and the BFDE, but there's a lot of like, but we have to protect against everything. You can't.
You know, like it brings me my personal story. But my wife is Polish, and she's using this digital prescription, and she got something prescribed once, and now she basically extends it over app and gets her medicine in every apotheke, like a pharmacy with where they have it available, and so we live in Berlin. And I got this allergy season. It kicks off right now. So yesterday I went to my doctor.
Yeah, it's horrible.
And she says like, no, but like I got blocked instantly on the appointment because I don't have an appointment. The next one is in 1 month. And I'm like, but in 1 month, I'm going to be crying every day. Could you just get me the same thing? No, because like, whatever, like you know. Yeah. Yeah. So actually you being able to call your doctor and get it proposed, you're very lucky
but it's because I already have an existing relationship with this person.
Yeah,
right?
Like,
if I didn't know them, it wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
But I think the problem is in Germany, we need to change the conversation about what is security, what is acceptable security. And like medical data should be safe. It must be safe. There must be standards. It must be protected. Of course, it must. But if you protect it too much, you can't use it. And we all know from information security, actually, that usability of the data is one of the factors that you have to look at for security. Can you use it? Is it accessible when it needs to be? And by focusing everything on protection, you drop the usability. So I think that's like our aim is to build this trust through the doctors, to organically then get the patients through the doctors, and to then be able to go from there and say, okay, now, dear patient, what do you want to do with it? and how do you want to work with it, and to really enable people to live healthier lives by giving them control over their health.
If you stay with this control topic, like if there would be a massive poll in Germany with the question, consent your personal medical data to be shared via API calls with every third-party medical service, and this will massively enhance your ability to get healthier. Do you think that majority will vote yes or against that?
80% will probably vote against it. 20%, so people like me who have chronic illnesses or like actually need healthcare like on a regular basis will vote for it. And the normal person who goes to the doctor like maybe once a year, because they like have a cold or need a sick note or something, they don't really care because it doesn't bother them. It's not like something like this. Anybody, like from my experience too with other people who have chronic illnesses, what do we want? We want these things to get better. We want people to do research and fix these problems, right? And if you're reasonably intelligent, you understand you can only do research with data. So all of these people who actually are most affected will probably be in favor of it. The people who are not affected and don't understand it will be against it.
And it is so funny because like when you're young, you don't care. You don't care. Like whatever the rules are, you just like whatever, do whatever you want. And when you start caring, like when you're 50 plus and you visit your doctor more often, then unfortunately, the whole media creates this fear of data being hacked and used against you. So a lot of time people that, should opting in for these kind of policies, they would actually opting out and saying, no, keep my data safe, but I'm going to be living in the 80s or 70s.
But right now, like if somebody wants to, if somebody's doing a medical study, and they need patients of a certain age group or with a certain illness, right? They're doing this study and they say, okay, I want to do this medical study. So they go to a bunch of doctors and they say, hey, do you have any patients like this? And the doctor says, yeah, maybe we have some like this. And they say, okay, I'll leave you this pile of forms here in your office. When the patient comes, out of those 6 minutes that a doctor in Germany spends on average with a patient, 6 minutes on average, could you please explain to them the concept of this form, make them understand the study, and get them to sign it and post it back to me? Do you know how successful that is? About 0.001%. If we have a system where the patients are registered in an ecosystem, and it doesn't even have to be doctorly, right? It has to be an ecosystem where the data is freely able to move. So somebody starts a medical study. Inside the system, we can actually identify, these would qualify. The system, without the original person knowing, the system sends them a message and saying, hey, here's this study. It's about your illness. Do you want to share your data? This is the data that will be shared. As a reward, you get, something for your time or for your effort. Do you know how many people will then click yes? At least 50%. It's from our research. So we can increase healthcare by enabling people to actually make this choice. Right now, most of those people with those conditions don't even get asked, do they want to take part, because the doctor doesn't have time or they don't go to that doctor's office inside a certain time window. Yeah. So all of these things become possible, but only when you have a way to transfer the data securely and with all privacy concerns and every type of encryption and everything else. But you have to give the person the choice. And right now, we're not giving people a choice.
I just instantly linking my ideas about what you just said, and what comes in my mind is ability to prevent and predict by having data in form of machine learning about the some patient data. So the project that I'm working on now with Casper Health is actually is to provide ability to prescribe perfect therapy based on your patient data. For example, if you have an injury, and when we have a data of 5,000 people having this similar injury, and what exercises they were doing, and you track how quickly they recover. So if you enable to establish pattern that specific certain group, age, sex, whatever, where we're using specific exercises for specific injury, and they recover in 2 months, and the other group recovered in 5 months, it gives you evidence that, okay, maybe we could dig deeper and specifically prescribe specific type of activities for specific type of injuries. It's broadly used in fitness, and fitness is kind of like reverse model where you try to basically gain specific certain muscles. In recovery, is like basically heal those kind of injuries. And although it's not yet broadly available, but I'm quite bullish that the medicine of the future is going to be about analyzing data and giving the patient instant results without even human interaction, because like we are prone to make an error. What do you think about that?
I completely agree. Without data, we keep talking in Germany about wanting preventative healthcare. We know that it's cheaper to catch the diseases earlier or not even become diseases. We know this. It's so simple, but we don't have the access and we don't have the data that we need to do that properly because it's living on some computer under a doctor's desk or hidden in the back cupboard of a hospital, or like underneath like the car park of the insurance company. All of these things are so separate that we cannot build a full picture. And if we can build full pictures, then we can run these models and we can analyze these things and we can discover new ways to treat things and we can actually really make meaningful improvements to people's healthcare. And we can really do preventative healthcare. I'm not sure that we'll reach a point where it's without human involvement. I think the things that I'm seeing and my experience trying things out at the moment leads me to believe that there's too much of a chance of incorrect bias on some of that. For some things, for example, looking at radiology images, thousands of images, thousands and thousands of images, and working out which ones should a human look at. That's that's actually very good because they can select much better. And like, if you're a person and you look at 1,000 pictures in a day, like at some point you miss things, right? The computer doesn't miss things. So I think that there are really good applications for this. So for really broad, like number crunching, you have a huge data set. What are the commonalities? These are the people who've had heart attacks between 40 and 45. What things happened before? What things happen afterwards? Yeah, and you can really use that to help the doctors to individualize treatment, to make really specific recommendations for exercises, drugs, other types of treatment. But I think the human touch of the doctor will stay with us for a very, very long time. I think this, like the AI as the doctor and the machine as the doctor, I don't think that will come in my lifetime to Germany because of the way people are, certainly here, and because of a bit of a mistrust of machines and things. But having the machines help the doctor to make better decisions. And dosage of like drugs, like you get drugs in like very specific dosages, like 5 milligrams, 10 milligrams, whatever. Being able to very accurately calculate, okay, based on this person's height, weight, blood pressure, blood type, they should have 6.5 milligrams and make individual tablets for that person, which is not difficult. Like most pharmacies can produce the stuff. Takes a bit longer, but overall, less effects, less negative outcomes, and the person actually is getting the treatment they exactly need instead of a bit much or a bit little. So I think there's huge.
Do you believe it? Do you believe in like a near future for personalized medicine, where you just say like we able to diagnose personal blood test, so all kind of like test samples, and based on that aggregate specific, not the usage of medicine or like the milligram, but like overall what you should take, what you should not take, and when we talk about this preventive health this is where it starts, because by personalized diet or personalized lifestyle, you could prevent tons of disease that will occur to you like years and decades after.
I believe that will come. I think we're 5-10 years away, because we need to establish the data. And we have it now in the new law that Lauterbach passed. We have this like Datennutzungsgesetz, where they can use the data that is uploaded to the electronic patient files of the patients for research. The problem is there's no mandate to force people to upload this data there. Like they say, everybody will have an electronic patient file. By law, you can opt out, but you have to have one. Great, you have one. Who's going to put something in it? Like, how's it going to get there? And we need the healthcare providers to be legislated to upload this data. So you can't escape from it. And we're doing it, but the others, some of them are not interested. And then the doctor has to do tricky things in his program to upload this data to this healthcare record. It just has to be, like, if you save the file, it gets uploaded to the person's healthcare record. Done. Like, why not? Like, it doesn't bother the user. Why should the user care? Right? Like, it should just happen automatically. And once these things start to happen automatically, the volume of data will grow. And once we have a volume of data, then we can use it. You know, you can't train an AI on 10 results. You can't train like an algorithm on like a tiny set of data. But we've got 80 million like publicly insured patients in Germany. We're swimming in data. We have such a great healthcare system that has all of the base requirements for this, and we're just walking past it and going, yeah, maybe tomorrow. And that's really disappointing. And that's something that we're trying to change, and you as well, like with the programs that we're doing. I know that there's a friend of mine in the company, and he does personalized vitamin stuff. So they send you a kit, you put in your samples, you send the samples back, and they then send you afterwards, this is your dietary supplements for you in the exact dosage that you need. It's not healthcare as such, but it's useful for people. But we do the same thing with medications. We can do the same thing with like training plans, or like, you know, what should or shouldn't a person eat? Like, you know, we can do this if only we had the data.
You know, it's super interesting. By the way, guys, I'm gonna also put the links that Jack is mentioning for like the companies or these vitamin startups down below in the comments. So if you would like to find out what company is doing these vitamin prescriptions, have a look. Jack, and like let's switch on the topic of actually building successful startup in Germany in highly regulated health tech, having majority of engineers in South Africa. How the hell did you manage to do that?
Okay. Things that, if you want to build a startup at all, you have to have a lot of energy and a lot of motivation. If you want to build a startup in healthcare in Germany, you probably have to be a little bit crazy. Doesn't hurt, right? Or you perhaps shouldn't know exactly how hard it would be when you started. The founders of Doctorly always say, if they knew it would be this hard, they might have done something else. So we're very lucky that they started the company not knowing exactly how bad it would be. You have to be able to understand the regulations. You need people in Germany, obviously, who can speak native level German to have these conversations with the regulators, with the BSE, with the BFD. So we have those people here. During COVID, before COVID, Doctorly was purely in Berlin. It was one of these small, classic Berlin-based startups, you know, down in Kreuzberg, nice office, good group of people, very motivated, doing great stuff. During COVID, you know, everybody spread out, and the first hires were made in other places. At that time, I also joined Doctorly, and then we're looking, okay, where can we get more stuff? And as a startup, what do you not have? Money, right? Or not lots of money. So we're looking, okay, where can we get stuff? Berlin is super expensive to hire, right? For developers, Berlin has gone from normal to just massively expensive. And so we looked around, where can we do it? Where can we hire developers? We looked at Eastern Europe, but the same problem is happening there. Like, The price in Poland is almost the same as Germany now, and you go further and further east. At some point, you end up outside of the EU, and you're like, is that a good idea? But I knew some people in South Africa. I've worked with people there before. Excellent English skills, great education, good university systems, and the cost of living in South Africa is significantly lower than in Europe or in Germany. So the price of developers and other staff is also lower. We're not paying them little, but we're paying them little compared to what we would pay them in Berlin. And we can give people there excellent benefits. So we give our employees in South Africa healthcare and pension and holidays, like more holidays than they normally get, and a decent salary, and we give them share options. In South Africa, you give these things to people are like, you're giving me healthcare? I'm like, of course I'm giving you healthcare. In Germany, I have to. I can't avoid it, right? Why would I treat a South African employee differently from a German employee? Like, it would be idiotic. And if he's sick all the time, he's not working. So, like, he needs healthcare. Yeah. So it just makes sense. In terms of the regulations, the people who build it don't touch the production systems. They should never touch the production systems. This data is too sensitive for that. So we have a core group of people who are able to access and maintain the production systems. And largely it's all infrastructure as code and automation anyway. So, but if there's an emergency, we have people here in Germany or inside the EU who are allowed to do these things and have the right training, the right authentication, the right paper that they've signed, the right security clearance. The developers in South Africa, there's developers. They write .NET code, they write React code, they write SQL scripts. What does it matter where they sit? You know, it's like, it really doesn't matter. The only thing that we did to really make this work is we made our application bilingual. So Doctorly is available in English and in German. There's no German doctor who ever uses it in English, right? None of our customers use it in English. But internally, we speak English and our developers use it in English. The advantage for us is when we go to a new market, we already have a full translation framework. So we've just got to sit somebody down for a day and write everything in French or like, and then at least the front end is fully translated.
And Jack, how does it look with internationalization? Do you actually plan to scale beyond Germany and open up, I don't know, like other markets? Or does it even make sense? Like, is the like, you know, this layer of healthcare management system is transferable to different markets?
So specifics are not, but generalities are. And we've done this. We've done the research, and we've built things in a way where it should be reasonably easy. So we already have the language translation, but that doesn't get you the regulations. And you're right about that. But wherever you go, certainly within Europe or the Western world, you go to a doctor, what do you need? You need an appointment. The concept of an appointment is very universal. Date, time, place, person, right? Like, this concept works everywhere. You see them, they write something down. They have some findings, some anamnesis, some recording of what the doctor has experienced when he sees you or she sees you. You will be given a diagnosis. These come from international catalogs like ICD-10 or other international catalogs. Normally, you will then probably be given a prescription. It happens a lot. And you go to a doctor, they give you drugs to make you better. Or they give you a referral, go somewhere else. Or they give you a sick note, stay home, don't work. These concepts are very universal. And we've built our system in a way that the concepts are there, and then there's a German language and German legislatory layer on top of that. But the concept of all of those is the same. And at the very end, there's a billing concept, right? The doctor has to get paid. In Germany, for the public doctors, the state pays. In other countries, the patient pays and gets their money back. So different models. But in the end, the doctor has to get paid, right? So there's an accounting component at the end. These components are completely universal across most of the Western world, and I imagine also other countries, like in Asia and totally other countries. Certainly South Africa has very similar concepts as well. So concepts translate. The actual implementation, you have to change. Okay, the prescription has one more field or one less field. Or there are different drugs that are available in China than there are in Germany. But internationalization is definitely, to be honest, we've still got a lot of nut to crack in Germany. We have to still reach a decent market share in Germany of 10, 20, 30% before we go outside. Because we want to reach this market share to then use the patient app to then promote, and then you have this snowball effect. So the doctor gets the patient gets the next doctor, and you have this B2B2C model where it rolls and rolls. Then once we get those, the healthcare on board, I think probably 2 years, 3 years, certainly Austria, Belgium, fairly easy targets because they're very similar healthcare systems. And then we have to see where the market then takes us, whether it's then at some point jumping to America, which is just huge in terms of market volume, or we try and do the rest of Europe, or we just see what happens. But it's definitely something we've already planned for in our implementations.
And Jack, in your roadmap, to get more value out of or get more value into the system, what would you wish for in terms of integrations with other players in the market? Who should talk to you and say, okay, let's join forces and do the things together?
So, in general, my wish is that everybody stops fighting in these closed gardens and closed ecosystems and thinks, okay, how can we integrate? Right? Beyond that, I think anybody who wants to work with us, if they have a specialized tool which does a very specific thing, but is not easily integratable into the doctor's practice management system now, they should definitely reach out and have a chat to us, because we're looking at the first with different players to see, okay, who's going to be first? The first ones are not going to be the easy ones, right? So these people also have to be able to invest the time and energy, right? We're doing our best, but there's 60 people that work at Doctorly. There's a limited amount that we can do. We have really great people, but if you want to be the first integration partner for Doctorly, you have to be also willing to come to the table and work together and not expect, it's finished, why does it not work? But we have to sit down together at the table and say, all right, how do we make this work? The first 1 or 2 or 3, I think they're going to be the hard ones. Beyond that, I think we're going to make it easier and easier. After the third one, we probably publish an SDK and anybody can look at it and then can use it. But the first ones are going to be, how shall I put this, handcrafted to a certain extent.
And if being in the cloud, you you're only limited to 3 pretty much players, so being with AWS, with Google or Amazon, by not giving any advertisement to the platform. What do you think what platform has the best, tooling for actually health tech startup?
Both AWS and Google are, and Azure as well, are focusing on healthcare more and more. They both, all 3 of them have healthcare as a thing where they've identified that needs to come. And they're all doing things that lead towards the data privacy and the data security. Google has announced their sovereign cloud. AWS already has some healthcare projects. We have relationships with both AWS and Google. We're not doing anything with Azure at the moment, but who knows? But I think the secret sauce is those companies identifying that this is special, understanding that healthcare has special needs from a data locality, a data privacy, data access, and building those controls, building those oversight mechanisms, and more importantly, making them easy to use. All of them have it, and you can set up Google to only run here or AWS to only run there, but you need to spend a lot of time from the ground up to do that. So I think if they focus on making this easier, then this will help more healthcare organizations to run there. I know there's a hospital in southern Germany who's fully on AWS now. Everything. They migrated everything to AWS. So it is possible.
I bet they don't regret it, because otherwise they might be using some patches of SAP or all kind of other softwares that will not play together.
No, it's coming, and they are concentrating on it. They need to put it a bit easier, and to not put the risk onto the individuals. Like, it shouldn't be one of my DevOps who accidentally clicks the wrong button and moves data like America. Right? It just shouldn't be possible. So you should be able to have easy organizational control to really enable this. And I think that's going to be the huge thing that differentiates. Which one of them gets there first? Difficult to say, but whoever gets there with that first and really pushes it, I think they're going to be in a good position to win.
Well, Jack, it was super nice having you on this podcast. You've shared with us enormous amount of insights from this deep health tech in Germany, and I only wish that next time I'm visiting any praxis or a health tech professional, I'm going to be seeing in the background Dr. Lee on their desktop. Thanks a lot, and looking forward to see you at the conference, or actually spread the good vibes and bring innovation into health tech.
Sam, thank you so much. It was lovely talking to you, and I look forward to seeing you around the events in Berlin.
All right. Ciao, Jack.
Thank you. Bye.